My 30F grandma F80 plus and mama F60 plus lose their minds when my 2F child cries. My mother, Alita, and grandmother, Azalea, both have significant trauma from their childhoods and in their adult life. In my culture their generations will not go to counseling, so that is out of the picture, at least in the short term. We are an intergenerational family and they are a big part of our family life. They are triggered by my youngest daughter Bella's crying. She is a toddler so she cries a lot. Lately she has been transitioning into a different sleeping schedule so she cries even more. My grandma and mother cannot take it. I can tell their undiagnosed PTSD is getting aroused. They will try to do anything to make it stop. I can see them go into emotional distress, and then they try to get involved with soothing her, which often just makes it worse. On top of that, if she is crying because she is being told no or because we are trying to habituate her to a new sleep schedule or food, etc., they will intervene or interrupt. They will even come into a room with a closed door. I am almost certain that this isn't a case of being deliberately overbearing, and they generally are not anything but supportive in my parenting. They normally mind boundaries very well. But when it comes to this, it's like they cannot control themselves. Afterwards I often see them look gloomy or far off or distant when she's done crying. Background info. This is my last child. They weren't like this with my other children. We went through even more in the last 3 years as a family and are still going through more loss with Corona. You probably have, but have you tried talking to them about their behavior, i.e. coming into closed rooms when you're trying to deal with it, and why their reactions are different than they were with the older kids? How big is the home? Can you designate spaces for you to soothe your child and for them to go and compose themselves elsewhere where the crying might not be as loud, triggering? What about headphones? Maybe creating an easy plan to give them a different action to take when they feel they need to do something to change the environment? Not sure. Definitely not a long-term solution, but maybe it helps a little bit at least a few of the times. I'd make it clear to both of them that if they can't handle this, you'll have no choice but to move out. I personally think that it might be from being cooped up. You all probably weren't around each other as often with the other children, so it wasn't as hard on them mentally. I'm assuming you've gone a direct route, talking to them about their behavior. Unfortunately, the only thing you can really do is set some boundaries and stick to them. Do not barge in, let me handle their tantrums, etc. While they don't have to address or talk about what happened, you need to tell them you've noticed a change with this child. If it continues you may have to move out. I'm curious if this is the only girl child you've had. If it is with undiagnosed PTSD or CPTSD, it's extremely possible her crying is a trigger for them both, which I'm sure you gather. It's possible to try to look up tricks online to help combat it, but me personally would suggest therapy. Best of luck to you though. I'm sorry they're suffering and you are too. Sad face. I am sorry, but you might have to move out. This year has been hell on all of us, especially those with PTSD. And they are being constantly triggered. If they don't want to seek out help, then the only thing you can do is to isolate them from the trigger. If they won't go to therapy, maybe you could go and get some advice from a professional. And if you can, talk to them about it and explain why it's a natural phase for toddlers to go through, but that you, as the parent, will handle it and need them to respect your boundaries. Do you guys live together? My parents made everything in their power to block any usage of emotions at home. That caused me to develop a BPD, while my sister has to be on anti-anxiety medication. Stopping a kid from expressing emotions, simple as crying, can alter a character in no time. Do something fast. Oh honey, sending all the love, and the compassion you have for seeing them and recognizing that they are in pain makes you special right there. Just be super sweet to them, but do draw boundaries. It's not okay to walk into a closed room. You can't afford to allow them to undermine your efforts, just to make it stop. It'll hurt the child. Anyway, I just thought of this. What about if you got them some headphones? Or suggested they put on music or something? Heart. Do you have any idea why they didn't act like this with your other children? Were there any other factors that were different? I have complex PTSD from childhood trauma, and can confirm, I am the same way with my own child. It's hard. I am a very good parent, but I relate to how hard it is to hear her cry and be upset. It sounds like they go into a dissociative state afterwards. Maybe ask them to leave the house. Go somewhere where they can't hear her, while you do what you need to do. It's not something that will go away on its own, it's not something they can help, it's awful emotions that come up, and if they have no training or counseling, it's hard for them to sit with distress. I have great success with EMDR therapy, and working with my child parts, and if they won't go to counseling, you can check out books about it, anything about inner parts work. There are YouTube videos on EMDR as well. I had an event that caused what I didn't know at the time was PTSD, and when my husband talked loudly in the days following, I couldn't cope with it all. My whole body would shake and I would lose control of the very thin veil of calmness I had. It was a total involuntary response. Because of that, I would say if there is a way to reduce the noise level to them, earplugs. Something, maybe you could find a way to approach the subject with them and find a solution. My experience has been to say to my child that it is okay to feel sad, it is okay to cry, and to remind them that they're safe. I do this to talk to my inner child who is triggered by the crying. I wonder if this could help soothe them so they don't interfere? Or at the very least remind them that she is, in fact, safe. We are an intergenerational family. Do you mean household? Because that changes things a lot. And if so, what are the arrangements? Who owns the home? Because it's likely going to be ultimatum time. Maybe set up soundproofing for your baby's room. Keep a baby monitor connected to your phone to monitor her. I think you need to love apart. The girl is the trigger and they can't actually stop since counseling is out of the question. You need to talk to them. If they won't get therapy, then maybe when she cries, they can go sit outside or put headphones on. Your kid's is gonna cry. She's a kid. If they aren't careful, their actions can and will have an effect on your child. Move out. Or tell them to. Whose house is it? There are always two sides to a story. For example, are you saying that you are leaving a 2-year-old to cry it out at bedtime when she is lonely, scared and distressed? Are you saying you are creating such a combative situation around food that your 2-year-old ends up crying? If that is what is happening, I can see why your relatives are upset. Shocking news. People get really fucking sick of screaming babies. I mean, this can't be novel information for you, can it?